Welcome to Collections of Cinema.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back
Hello.
to a new episode of Classics in Cinema. To Collections of Cinema.
Yes.
With the main host,
Dani, and the
wow.
co-host,
the
Woifi.
the humble but real co-host to the co-host, Dani. We're back with a new episode, and we did an oopsie. We watched the movie like 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago, and I don't remember much of it.
We did an oopsie.
Yeah.
The thing is, I mean, you don't have to remember that much, but it's the same story that
I prepped a little bit.
That you already know,
yeah.
And
yep.
I remember the things that I didn't like about it, and I remember the things that I liked about it.
So today we're talking about, let's just dive into A Nightmare on Elm Street. It's a beautiful steelbook edition of the movie here. It came out in 2010, and it was technically a remake of the original, of the first one of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies.
Is it though?
It is. It is. And
I don't remember enough of the plot of the first one.
No, it is.
But in the first one, they're not the kids, are they? Of the parents who...
Totally.
Oh, they are? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so it is a direct remake.
It is a direct remake, but So the first one of the original was a darker movie, and then the more the series progressed, it got more slapsticky and
kind of campy,
mm-hmm. and the main character,
especially Freddy. Freddy got very campy.
But I think that was the appeal of the later movies, that Freddy was very goofy in his way of killing and playing with the kids.
But I think it was also very stylistic, of the times. It fit with the times of that's how horror movies kind of were. They kind of had to make the...
I mean, yes and no, but I think they leaned into the character of, hey, he is a dream guy. He could make anything possible.
Mm-hmm.
And that creatively pushed them more into an absurd, funny direction, which I actually very like. Mm-hmm. So if you watched, they're not all great, but if you watch the older movies, some of them really stand out. And Freddy always, Robert Englund, who plays Freddy, always leans into the character and is a lot of fun. So,
but this is not the same. I mean, it can't be the same Freddy.
No, it's not.
Yep.
It's A Nightmare on Elm Street with Jackie Earle Haley. So they recast basically everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of like it because they tried to approach the whole thing a little differently. And this movie is way darker.
And they give more backstory into Freddy. I don't think in the first one they really went into the why as much.
They implied things. They implied things, but they never actually showed proof to those accusations or...
But was it the same...
same plot
reason.
Yeah. So the parents killed the guy because they believed that he did something with their kids.
Mm-hmm.
And then he basically came back as a monster in their dreams and killed the kids. That's the same plot.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the remake. So the remake, interestingly enough, in the early 2000s, there were a lot of remakes of famous horror movies. One being the Texas Chainsaw Massacre in 2003 by Michael Bay, and then the Friday the 13th remake, and then this one, Nightmare on Elm Street. And I think the best one of those three is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake, because it kind of didn't change a lot of the original movie.
Yeah, that's true.
Though the original movie is more psychological horror.
I think it's better. Versus
the new one, or the 2003 version, is more brutal kills and gore.
It's more slasher, yeah.
Yeah. But still...
But again, fit with the times. There were a lot of slasher. Saw was around
series.
That time.
Yeah.
Slasher was really big.
And then the Friday the 13th movie did not work for me, because it didn't do much new. It kind of just copied the first one a little bit, but then also not really, because the first Friday the 13th is not Jason. the killer, but the mom, Jason.
Yeah.
And in the second part, Jason is really the killer. So I don't know. Not a huge fan of the remake, but
I don't remember the remake.
It's not worth it. But the Nightmare on Elm Street remake is actually.
The thing is, I like it. It's not for me like I remember when I first saw it. So I remember when it came out.
Yeah.
And I think I saw it in theaters.
Yeah.
And I really liked it.
Me too, and mainly because Jackie Earle Haley does a great job in not copying the old Freddy, but trying to put his own mind to the character.
Yeah.
And he is very creepy and scary. I mean, not necessarily for us, but for the target audience being teenagers.
When I watched it when it was new, I was terrified.
I was 20
I thought it was pretty scary.
Yeah, it was scary. Yeah. And they did a great job in trying to not copy the style. But I think that's also something that kind of failed a little bit because the original Freddy's so iconic at this point. I mean, he did like 9 movies or 8 movies. And
was it always the same? Freddy?
It's always the same. Yeah, the last real role he did was Freddy vs. Jason. Mm-hmm. That's where he played the character the last time, like for real. But there's a lot of things that don't work for me. But let's start with the things that work.
Let's go back a little bit. So when I first saw it, I loved it. The very first time in the theaters, and it actually creeped me out, which these days is very hard to do because I love horror movies so much.
That's why I got it. That's why I got it, because I liked it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would have not gotten it.
And I will say I don't feel like it holds up anymore.
No.
At least as a horror movie. Like, it's not, if you're somebody who's into horror and you watch a lot of it, it doesn't hold up in that sense anymore, where it's no longer scary. But I mean, you can say that about almost any horror movie.
Yeah, but the problem is, I think the original series, not all of them again, but most of them, especially the first one with Johnny Depp and some other notable characters or performances by actors, those movies are iconic.
They're iconic, and they hold up because they're classics, right. I think. But in terms of scary, they don't really hold up. But there are moments.
I mean, the first one.
I think the first one is pretty scary
if you show it to a teenager.
But I mean, like, in the sense where if you watched it for the first time
as an adult,
it's maybe not scary. Yeah. One of the few movies that I think still holds up in that sense is The Shining. But like, if you were to watch The Shining for the first time now, you would still be scared of it.
Sure, I agree.
But anyways, that's besides the point. So I enjoyed it when we watched it this time. I thought it was entertaining. But I was not. It wasn't really like good. Super scary or something.
No. There are parts that are really good and that hold up for me. That some of the dream sequences were really well done.
They are very well done.
Like, for example, the hallway with the blood, and she just keeps walking and sinking in. For example, there are a lot of very, very fancy VFX shots in there.
Well, there are some good creep factors that are outside of dream sequences, like towards the end of the movie when he was talking to her about, you at some point when you're so sleep deprived, you kind of go into these mini sleeps where you're awake but you're asleep, and so you start seeing things, and that was really well done, because there was a point where they're in the high school and they're just walking, and she looks down the hallway and there was like a dead person just like standing there. It's really well done.
There's some really good scenes in it, and I think the biggest problem is where it falls apart is that the whole package doesn't work, because they try to recreate, first of all, iconic scenes, iconic characters that kind of doesn't click. Then I think a lot of the kids are just like boring, and
I didn't love the acting.
No, right. The acting is not that great. Yeah. I think mainly because the screenplay is a little weird, and even Freddy's acting was not. I mean, it was fine.
Some of it was better really good, than the rest of them, but the teenagers were all very like
forgettable.
It felt campy, but not on purpose.
Yeah, right. And I think the main reason for that is that they just didn't try to change him too much, but at the same time, I feel like they changed. First of all, they changed the main character, Freddy, so much. They gave him a much darker, horrific backstory, and that alone would have needed more changes in terms of other characters, I feel like. And then, I don't know, I think again, I'm going back to the main series, but I think what stands out in the main series is the campy, funny, weird Freddy that almost makes you laugh. And the thing is, I laugh at some of the scenes because it's so funny how he chases down the children and kills them. It's fucking hilarious. And that's what you remember of that series. And then you watch that movie and it's just the darkest shit that you could imagine.
But I like that. That's what I like about the movie, because
it too, but
I like that they didn't.
Too much, I feel like. I don't know.
Yeah, but that's why I disagree. I feel like they changed a lot in this one, which made it its own thing. But as opposed to like, it would be worse if they just did 1-to-1 the other one.
I feel like they should have changed more, not only the tone, but they recreated some scenes, like the bath scene and stuff like that. They recreated a lot of scenes.
That's true.
The main story is completely the same.
And I feel like it wasn't executed. Like the bath scene was not executed well, because it wasn't.
It's not that scary.
It wasn't scary at all. No. And bath scenes for me, like when I watch
movie, and
someone gets in a bath, I'm like, fuck this.
The first part, like the bath scene, is actually scary. It's a scary scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the other thing that bothered me, and I know that this is just the times that they were, it wasn't the best for makeup. It wasn't the best time for CG, that stuff. So his face really bothered me.
Yeah, that's actually a fun.
Is it? It's a mask though. It's fully 100% a mask or makeup.
It's CG too.
Okay, yeah, it doesn't look good.
The problem is, so since they leaned into more realistic, darker thing, they thought about recreating like the semblance of a burn victim. But the problem is they didn't want to do that too much, because then people are scared of burn victims, and nobody can do anything about a physical appearance if you survive a burn. So they didn't do that, and then they came up with this more.
People scared
but it's still a sensitive subject, and as a burn victim, you don't want to go to see a movie where the evil guy looks like you.
Yeah, sure, but you could say that then about any movie, any scary movie where the bad guy's Russian or the bad guy's German or the bad guy.
It's a sensitive subject, and I
get it, but okay.
And also what they said, they looked at a lot of pictures, and they also didn't want the audience to turn away in disgust every time Freddy was on screen. So they had to find a middle
because they were
ground.
still trying to make him likable, or what?
No. Obviously, people want he's on screen all the time, and it's not like a monster in the dark that you don't see ever until the end. So you know how he looks, but people wanted to be able to look at him without being, It's
interesting. I feel like that's a strange approach.
I mean, I get it. But yeah. So they did like a CG.
But that's what I want in a horror movie. I want to be so frightened that I don't want to look at the screen. Like that's what you want. I feel like that's like the goal of a horror movie.
Yeah,
isn't
I don't know. The
you
thing
want
is,
to scare people.
But he's still the main character, and you know how he looks. You know how Freddy looks in general.
Yeah.
So you still want to make him. The thing is, in the first few movies, he wears a mask and he's not like, it's not that scary.
But that's the different. With that's the times that it just, of course, they didn't have the technology.
I feel like they still did a great job with it.
No, it was fine.
Some of it was a little wonky.
It just looked. It was hard for me. See, that's the opposite though. It was hard for me to look at him. Because there were parts that just looked so weird where I'm like, this doesn't work.
Yeah, it was uncanny. There was a little uncanny valley in there for sure, and. Yeah, so there's a lot of makeup, there's a lot of prosthetics, and there's CG work done.
I feel like they should have just done all makeup, because I feel like they could have made it. But look at Insidious, right? They had it was all makeup in the first one, and it was fucking scary. That scene where the devil comes up behind his shoulder, it's just a dude all in makeup, and it's
a different approach
awesome.
Because James Van tried to reproduce the monster horror, the demon horror of the early 80s, 90s. And so he went practical. So it makes totally sense.
Yeah.
But in this movie, I mean, they also took on, it's still incredible work. They brought on the people from The Dark Knight who did the Two-Face CG, which is still great.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And so the thing is, again, the whole package I feel like doesn't work, because there's so many parts that work, and then there's so many parts that don't work, and then mashed together, it's just incoherent. It's just not a fully flashed out movie. It feels like a cheap money grab. That's what it feels like.
That's what it feels like to me too.
Yeah. Interestingly, the director, Samuel Bayer, is a visual artist, cinematographer, commercial music video and film director. Okay. And the only movie he did was that one.
Okay.
Which is kind of sad.
How did it? Do you have the info how it did? Like box office?
Wait. He did a ton of music videos, like a shit ton of. I've never seen a director do so many music videos. He did tons of Green Day, like every band you can imagine. He did tons of commercials, and then he did A Nightmare on Elm Street.
It's so interesting.
Which is also interesting because maybe that was also a problem, bringing on someone who is not fully committed to the task. I don't know.
Or maybe it was just, hey, I want to try this. Like, maybe. I want to try, like, step my foot into the film scene maybe. And see how it goes. I don't know.
Yeah. The film's budget was $35 million, which is
that's actually
low,
surprisingly low.
And grossed worldwide $150 million. So
it did well.
Pretty well. And Jackie Earle Haley was basically, like, the main character, Freddy, was hesitant at first because he didn't want to just, step into this iconic character and don't bring anything new to the table. But he did, I feel like.
I think he did.
Yeah.
I mean, like we both said, I think he was the best part of the movie. He, in terms of acting and all of that, he, I think, did the best job.
No, I agree.
Of everybody.
Yeah. I feel like when we talk about the remakes like this, where like Leatherface, Jason Voorhees, or Freddy Krueger, all those very iconic 70s, 80s Michael Myers, of course, killers who built, or Hollywood built massive franchises around them. Sometimes they only work because of their legacy and because of their appeal of those older movies.
But that's why I also think that a movie like that is, of course, it's bound to do well in the box office because the name alone gets people to the cinema. Like that's,
you have the old fan base and then you have new people come in. Sure, it's bound to be do pretty well. Yeah, but it was it was not a flop at all. And interestingly, they didn't follow up with another part, which is interesting.
Yeah.
But I feel like it was just because it wasn't super well received in terms of the critical response, which is kind of weird because nowadays people would still do another part.
Yeah.
If it does well.
The thing is, honestly, even if it doesn't do super well, they'll make second parts to things these days. But the thing is, I would definitely recommend, if you're a Freddy fan, if you're a Nightmare on Elm Street fan, watch it. I think you've
probably seen it already.
You've probably seen it, but if you haven't, definitely watch it. I think it's fun.
Yeah.
Even if you're a horror fan and you haven't seen it, watch it. I mean, I don't think it's a bad movie. It's just, I think it's entertaining. It's fun. Yeah. It's dark.
Yeah.
It's maybe not the most well acted movie, and there are definitely some things where you're like, eh.
Robert Englund said about it
but it's fun.
It suffered from ineffective makeup and lack of empathetic characters, and that kind of is true.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's
because you don't care about any of the people.
No, you don't give a shit. You really
don't care. They don't do anything to build up the characters. No. They really just, that's one thing I do appreciate. It just starts like at the start of the movie. It's like in it, that's for a horror movie not super common. A lot of times there's a lot of buildup and sometimes too much buildup. This one, there's basically no buildup, but I think that was its downfall in a sense because like you said, you don't have any empathy for the characters. You don't get to know them at all. It's just like throws you in a little. So
one thing that I have to say they did super well was the transition between dream world and real world. They already did that super well in the early movies, but in this movie they recaptured that thing where they do something or they are somewhere and then they cut and all of a sudden some things are weird or off and you're like, oh, okay, sure, she probably or he probably dreams now. They did a very good job with that. Even though I feel like in the originals they did a better job in terms of they didn't even make you guess. they just came at you with, and you're like, and then all of a sudden, oh shit, she's dreaming.
Yeah.
It's not immediate, like noticeable that they're dreaming. Yeah. I honestly
which I also loved about the originals is that it also made you not totally sure that when you think they're awake, if they're actually awake. So the whole movie you're kind of questioning. And with this one, you always know, okay, they're awake, they're dreaming.
It's
and
very
I think
clear.
it made it creepier in the originals where you're like, okay, is she, but maybe she's really sleeping right now and everything's not fine, or vice versa. Maybe she's dreaming and she doesn't know she's dreaming.
Totally. Yeah. Totally. Yeah, I honestly, I didn't like it. It's one of those movies where I'm questioning myself why I do have it. I will keep it. I'm not going to sell it because it's not worth any more.
I think that's a little high. I mean, I know that neither of us have really talked super lovingly about the movie, but
I don't like it. I really don't like it.
I think it's enjoyable. I wouldn't say I like love this movie, but I think it's enjoyable.
The thing is, I would not recommend this movie to anybody. No, I would not. I would say watch the originals. There's some of them are not good.
Yeah.
But watch them all because they're fun. And at least the ones that are not good are still fun.
Yeah, that's true.
And
I thought this was fun, though.
I don't like it.
I wouldn't say it's a great movie, and I wouldn't say, like, I want to watch it every Halloween, something like that. But I think it's fine. If you like the franchise, I think you
still
will be entertained.
Stick with the original. Even Freddy vs. Jason is more fun than this.
That's true.
Yeah. Okay, so we are going to do two things now. We're going to do movie of the week.
Are we doing that first?
Yes.
Movie of the week.
Movie of the week.
I was just doing like a really short one this time.
Okay. So, we watched a couple of movies. I have to look.
I already know what my favorite one is. But
okay, we have to go back until, let's say, until the 5th, the 9th. Okay. So, wait. No, sorry. Until the 26th. Okay. So it's not that many movies, but...
Are you only doing the week that we watched that movie? Okay, so maybe the one I want to say is not in here.
Maybe not. So we watched The Big Short.
Yeah.
We watched Sideways again.
Yep. Again.
Second time in this year. We watched Man in Black 2.
Yeah.
We watched Trap.
Yeah.
We watched Popstar Never Stop, Never Stopping. And we watched Planes, Trains, Automobiles. And last night we watched Kinds of Kindness.
I thought you were only doing the movies in the week that we watched that movie.
No. It's just the last week.
Okay.
Yeah, from this recording.
Awesome.
Yep.
I want to add one to it, but I'll say my movie of the week after we talk about that movie of the week.
Okay. So what is your movie of the week?
Of that list?
Yeah.
I mean, Kinds of Kindness, probably.
Yeah.
That last night, if that weren't in the mix from last night, then I don't know. I'd probably say Sideways.
Yeah, I would say Sideways as well, or Big Short.
Yeah, I would still say Sideways. But Kinds of Kindness was so
Yorgos Lanthimos, Greek director. His new movie right after Poor Things.
Mm-hmm. Which was also phenomenal.
And it's like a
he also did The Lobster.
The Lobster.
Yep. Episodical
movie, like 3 episodes with the same actors more or less. And it's 3 separate stories, but they have overlapping themes. Yeah. And it's very disturbing as his other movies are, and super weird, like super weird. And
but I will say for his
very mainstream,
for his style of the other movies that I've seen of his. I'm always drawn into his movies because I just like the style. I like the weird. I like the chaos and the
question. Like you watch that movie and you're like all the time. Like I was all the time. Like who the fuck thinks of that?
Yeah,
it's so brilliant. Yeah, but it's so fucked up at the same time.
Yeah, but that's what I was gonna say. That his other movies, a lot of the time, you're kind of almost questioning reality. Sometimes
it's very surreal.
Where you're like not sure, is this really happening? This time definitely too, but it was on purpose. Yeah. This time, where I feel like the other one is not so much on purpose. It's just like his style. And this one is very much trying to get you to say, okay, what's real and what's not real. But really only in that last story.
At the second one too, with her dead, or with the fake wife.
That was the last one.
That was the second one. The last one was with the sweat. The being gross and what is the word that they used?
Oh, contaminated.
Contaminated.
That was the last one. Sorry. Yeah. Okay, that's what I meant then. The second one. But this one was very mainstream. I mean, very mainstream. More mainstream. For him.
If you don't like his movies usual, you probably will like this one.
Yeah, it kind of goes on the edge of, I wouldn't say horror, but
there were some horror.
Some horror elements to it. There were also some comedic elements to it. Very dark comedy. Yeah. Extremely well acted. I mean, Jesse Plemons and Emma Stone and Willem Dafoe were like the main three. Yeah. Just brilliantly acted.
And what other movie would have said?
That wasn't on the list. Yeah. Long Legs.
Long Legs, yeah. Yeah, that would have been in that week.
And it fits so well with our theme today, which is like the horror movie. But that, like I said earlier, it's very hard to creep me out these days. I have been thinking about that movie nonstop since we watched it. Like nonstop. Yeah. At least once a day. The idea of Long Legs just comes into my head and I'm like, fuck, that's creepy.
Oz Perkins. I mean, the movie, it's so annoying to me that sometimes movies get hyped up by critics and then by the internet. And this movie like had this tagline, the most horrific horror movie ever made, or the best horror movie of the year, or the best horror movie of the century, all that shit. And you know,
but I would agree that it's the best of the year so far.
But it's not a horror movie, really.
It is.
I mean, it has horror elements, but it's more a psychological thriller, I would say.
Yeah, but
with horror elements.
I agree, but I think that at least in the US market, psychological thrillers are often marketed as horror.
I mean,
so
sure
when
they
people
are.
talk about horror movies,
no, sure,
they could mean I'm the same.
It makes sense. It totally makes sense.
Like I call Zodiac a horror movie, even though it's a psychological thriller.
It totally makes sense, but you know, you with things like that, with taglines or with article headlines like that, you create this image in one's head.
Yeah,
and then most people, you know, get hyped up. Most people take the hype, and most people go in with that hype, and it can't live up to that usually.
Yeah, and the thing is, especially with Long Legs, it's a slow burn.
It's a slow burn, and
but the end is like,
I really liked it. But the thing is with Long Legs, a lot of people, it's like one of those movies where a lot of people really like it, and a lot of people say, "Oh no, it's not for me," and I get it because it's. I think the supernatural element of the movie kind of makes it into something that could have just been a copy of Silence of the Lambs. But it's not because of the...
It's definite. I mean, you can tell it's definitely inspired.
Yeah, 100%. But it's not that.
But it's not that.
Of the...
But don't give anything.
Supernatural. No, I'm not.
But I will say that the turn that it takes for me was very unexpected. I was not expecting the element that came into it to be the thing. Like I was not expecting it at all.
I knew a certain things already, so I wasn't that surprised. And the main twist wasn't like this mind-blowing thing.
Not mind-blowing, but unexpected and
effective. Yeah.
And very well acted by everyone. And I mean, Nick Cage is just Nick Cage. He was brilliant.
Insane. And also Micah Monroe, the main actress. Yeah.
Very, very good.
Great fucking movie. I really liked it, and I ordered it on Blu-ray right away. So maybe we do an episode on that one at some point.
Yeah. Okay.
So now is the time, and I'm going to film this now.
Oh, you're filming it from there too.
No. Yeah. I'm filming it so you can post it. So this is for our Instagram. So if you want to see that again, just head over to Instagram or just follow us in general, because then you see things like that happening.
And you can take part in them.
Okay, so let's go.
So as you know, we pick at random a movie, and you guys pick the numbers, and we just throw them in a cup and pick one randomly. So you can hear there's multiple pieces of paper.
Yes, there is.
No cheating. So the next movie is...
I'm excited.
Number 77.
Oh, that's a little further back.
And that was that was submitted by @scriptwritress. I hope I'm saying your handle correctly.
Yeah.
But yeah, 77. What is 77?
It's Barbie.
Barbie!
I'm actually excited for that one. That's great. It's a new movie.
So
77 Barbie. So this is going to be the next episode. So if you have not seen Barbie, watch it, and then you can follow us along while we talk about it.
I love that movie.
Other than that, if you want to support us, head over to our Patreon. It's in the description on YouTube or on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcast. Follow us everywhere, like YouTube, Spotify, Apple, whatever you have. Like, please, even though if you don't like it because it helps us a lot. Comment if you want to see something that we don't do yet, if you have an idea for a segment that we maybe could do. And also, please let us know if you have seen A Nightmare on Elm Street, the remake, and if you liked it or if you prefer the originals.
I mean if you don't prefer the originals, then are you okay?
Yeah. Okay, that's it, everybody.
That's it.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.